A serial killer is discovered and killed after being on the run for 38 years. He dies uttering one name, Mulder.
In this look into Mulder's past, we head back in time to the Red Scare. What could this man have to do with Mulder's father?
This is not happening.
You know who I am?
You prosecuted the Rosenbergs. Now you're working with Mr. Hoover and Senator McCarthy.
Then you know how important my work is. How vital it is to the future of this country that these rats, these vermin, who dare call themselves Americans, be exposed as the traitors they are.
I don't interest myself in politics, Mr. Cohn.
Everything is political, Agent Dales. Like this report you filed this morning. We've spoken to Mrs. Skur and the neighbors. You seem to be the only person who can identify that man as Edward Skur.
Do you believe me then?
We are fighting a powerful enemy in a war of ideology. In any war, there are secrets, truths that must be kept from the public in order to serve the greater good.
You want me to amend my report? Take out any reference to Edward Skur? I don't understand.
You're not supposed to understand. You're supposed to follow orders.
Well, welcome tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Mike.
Happy to travel in for this episode there, Mike.
Well, as it's no surprise, we are covering the episode Travelers, directed by William Graham.
William Graham.
Yes.
Our buddy Bill.
And written by Frank Spotnitz and John Sheeman. Two people who know what they're doing, I would argue.
Do you remember what other episodes Bill Graham did for the X-Files?
Not offhand. I know him.
It's your favorite episode from season 1.
Oh, Space?
The most yes.
Nice. Well, he did a much better job this time.
And he also did EBE.
And
so it's like you can't say he doesn't know what he's doing.
No,
that was a good one.
And to be fair.
But interesting, eh?
Yeah. To be fair, none of those are technically bad episodes. It's just the execution of...
No, Space. Come on. I cannot forgive Space.
No. I mean, Space is terrible, but I'm talking like director. I don't know that he did a terrible job. Maybe not. I think it's just altogether not great at all. We know that.
All right. This is not Space, so happily we can.
And like you just said, he did EVE. We know he knows how to do his job. That was my point.
Exactly. It does very much depend on the script. Yeah. All right. I will forgive that sin.
So this is a little bit different of an episode. We have a couple time jumps here. Similar to the Unusual Suspects, we get that time jump back to the early 90s / late 80s. And then we go back even further for a look into Mulder's father's past and kind of how the X-Files not came to be, but, you know, this is definitely their infancy.
It's a bit of an origin story.
A little bit.
The X-Files is a term, but I would argue that actually Mulder's father is kind of a minor figure in this.
He is very minor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, and no Gillian Anderson in this show.
Mm-mm. She's off doing movie stuff, I believe.
Yeah, she's filming her scenes.
Reshoots.
Yeah, she was awful. They had to do it again.
Jillian, I hate to say this, you suck.
You're better on TV. Movie cameras don't like you.
You're not playing for the film. The 16:9.
Do better. Interesting note about this. I guess Chris Carter's got a love affair with Darren McGavin. He was originally in line to play Daddy Mulder in season 2.
I have a love affair with the man. I think he's awesome.
He is awesome. Yeah, he knocks.
I love him in everything he does. He's got one of those voices and those presences that I just can't get enough of.
And I cannot wait for you to talk about the places we have seen a lot of these characters before, because it's so noteworthy that the production notes in this say that there are 7 actors that make return appearances from previous X-Files and Millennium episodes. So I expect you to recount every single one of them. Yeah.
7?
At your leisure, sir, anytime you want.
Oh, I'm going to have to do
Put that smartphone down.
I'm going to have to do, I'm looking at my desk, sir. I've got a nice grain of wood going on here.
It's hypnotic even, yeah. Hey, listen, it doesn't have to happen now. Just when you see them, call them out. That's all I need to tell you.
All right, so we open. It is 1990.
How do we know that?
It says so in big letters on this typeface on the screen. And we are in Caledonia, Wisconsin. It is November. A sheriff's cruiser pulls up. It has one officer and who we find out is a landlord for this really rickety house, shack, that we are pulling up to.
Slumlord, I would say. Yeah.
Is it really worth owning?
Just wait. You know, like, you'll get it back eventually.
Yeah. So they pull up. And there's a little dialogue. The cop's like, I don't much care for evicting old people. And the landlord says, this one will change your mind. They go in. They're hesitant. They knock on the door and they call for Skur. No answer. They go in armed. The house smells absolutely disgusting. It appears that no one is home. As they investigate the house, it really just looks worn down and completely decrepit. The cop goes into the bedroom, or into a bedroom, and the landlord, having gone into a bathroom, rushes out and he vomits. The cop goes to see what he's looking at. He sees a leathery hand, what looks like a glove on the side of the bathtub, and then when he takes a closer look, he notices a very dehydrated, dead body, kind of sucked clean, laying in the tub, and it looks very disgusting.
Yep.
I mean, if you take the dead body out of this house, I can still smell it, if that says anything. Just the way it looks is very disgusting.
Well, full props to the actors, though, the sheriff and the landlord, because they just, with their expression and every look they cast, it's like you are right there with them going, I would not want to be in this house.
As the cop is looking at the dead body, he gets cold cocked from behind. They get into a short scuffle, but he manages to draw his gun and fire behind him, hitting the man who attacks him. The man falls backward down the stairs, and he lies there dying, calling out one name over and over, Mulder. And then we get credits.
I gotta say, I mean, I like that this is not your standard opener where the monster just kills a guy and then, you know, as the guy is screaming, we cut to the credits. Like, that happens so often. It is refreshing to see a competent law enforcement officer here. Like, even him being cold cock, he's like, he's had his gun out, so he's just quick on the shot and managed to put two in this guy's chest or whatever. Yeah. But Mulder's in his mouth.
Mulder, he's got Mulder on the mouth.
I think it's the creature.
It's the substance that comes with that creature.
Oh, yeah.
And then it goes into the victim.
Okay, point of order.
The actor just had a cold, really.
Yeah, that's right. He was hired specifically because of his cold. Curiously, they don't do... Well, okay, I guess I'm answering my own question here, but they don't do the autopsy, which exposes the alien in 1990. It's only later on that we get that bit of business. I find that interesting that they didn't go there, and clearly they would have, right? Because like officer involved shooting, they're gonna investigate it.
Well, it's only 1990; they don't really care.
in Caledonia,
they hardly care now.
He's old. He was evicted. He had it coming.
This guy can't pay his bills.
But also the weirdo body. Like, there's enough things there that this would have ended up but pre X-Files, I guess. I don't know. I guess there's a little tiny plot thread there.
You have a good point, Andrew. I know.
I know. I'm so smart.
But then there's also this, smart. Andrew. Andrew, you are so smart.
Don't make me bring back Irish Andrew now.
Oh, no. You know, I just got to thinking the other day, we didn't have a eulogy.
We didn't.
I think we need one. That might be a special episode for you
that would be
dedicated
for
fans.
Our top tier Patreon supporters that can come join us for the funeral.
It's just going to be Oh Danny Boy for 3 hours.
It's going to be great. All right, so full props to the sheriff for smoking this guy, whereas a lesser episode would just have him screaming and fade to black.
Yeah. So, after the credits, we are back in DC. Mulder pulls up, and he pulls up to an apartment complex, and we can tell it's younger Mulder because he has adorable hair. He goes inside and knocks on an apartment door and is answered by an older gentleman, Arthur Dales. He introduces himself as an FBI agent, and he's inquiring about this man, Edward Skur. He wants to get Arthur's take on it because Arthur was the originator of the case for Edward Skur. He asks Mulder if he knows what an X-file is.
Designated unsolved. I think
It's designated unsolved is, yeah. It's not that it is unsolved, it's that it cannot be solved, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder asks that because this case file is largely redacted and blacked out, is someone trying to bury this file. And he notices that any mention in Dale's file of Edward Skur, it's been omitted, and he wants to know why. There were victims that Skur had something to do with that all had their organs removed without tearing the skin. And this includes the pre-credit scene. So he wants to know what's up and why Edward Skur died saying his father's name.
That's some important bits here too, right? Like he does announce to Dales and us, the audience, that he's working at the behavioral sciences unit. So this is pre-X-Files Mulder, obviously, and his previous life is the rising star of the profiling unit. And that, obviously pre-X-Files. But he also calls them stranger killings. I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice. I like it. Arthur Dales is reluctant and dismissive. He says, if he's dead, there's nothing you need to know now, and there's nothing you need from me.
I'm going back to my bourbon. I got my bartender in here with me. I can't drink it myself.
There's nothing you need from me.
Look, sir, my name is Mulder. You know that name. And so did Edward Skur. How?
Have you ever heard of HUAC, Agent Mulder? The House Un-American Activities Committee? No. Before your time, you wouldn't know. They hunted communists in America in the 40s and 50s. They found practically nothing. You think they would have found nothing unless nothing was what they wanted to find?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't see the connection.
Maybe you're not supposed to.
Mulder's confused.
Yep, gets a door in his face for his troubles.
Yep, he gets the door slammed on him. But Mulder leaves for now. He's got something. He goes home and studies the McCarthy hearings and goes over what little of Dale's report there is left. It's very few words.
I like that he needs his glasses to watch the video of the communist hearings, the HUAC hearings.
Well, it's a good thing he did.
He wouldn't have spotted the, was it Roy Cohn he spots there?
Cohn and his father in the back.
That's right. He does then go and say, Dad? Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Mulder spots his father. He goes back to Arthur Dale's apartment early on in the morning. He brings him coffee as a nice guy. And he's still resistant. Dales is still resistant. He says, if you want to know something, go ask your dad. Mulder's like, well, we don't speak. And if you don't help me, I can just subpoena you to get the information. And it is now, and only now, that Dales starts talking.
It's funny, when I just realizing when I saw this episode, I thought when he said we're not on speaking terms, that this was X-Files Mulder, and that he's actually like, my father's dead, but I'm just going to throw a little curveball. We're not on speaking terms because he's dead.
I got accused of his murder. It was a whole big thing.
But I'm realizing now they weren't on speaking terms. Yeah, okay. I liked my interpretation better.
Yeah, it's a good time. We jump forward just a little bit. They're in Dale's apartment. They're talking. And Dales is relaying the story about how before his disappearance, Skur worked for the State Department just like Mulder's dad. Mulder asks if the men that Skur killed 38 years ago, how was my dad involved? Why was he involved? So
between puffs of smoke, by the way, did you notice he was smoking in this?
Yeah. All their organs had been removed without tearing the skin. Dales says, I can tell you how they were killed. I can't tell you why. The government said he was a communist, and to us, they were all just names on a sheet. So we get a flashback here. So we're going back in time again, ladies and gentlemen. While Dales is relaying this story, we are now back in the 50s.
It's a kinder, gentler time.
It was a sweet time. So a young Arthur Dales and his partner, Michael, pull up to a house. They approach it and introduce themselves to the wife, the owner of the house. We then find out is the Skur residence. Skur comes to the door, and once he acknowledges he is who he is, they immediately apprehend him, put him up against the wall, and start accusing him of crimes and arresting him.
Yeah, Agent Michael is not nice about it at all.
No, he's very forceful, and he's calling him red. He's calling him a traitor.
But slimy, I would say, because there's an allegation that he puts this communist membership card on.
Oh,
Skur.
Yeah, I think
I bet she does too, actually.
he's a little slimy.
Yeah.
I don't trust him at all.
He's not making it nice for us, not making it that we want to like him.
Yeah. Michael escorts him out of the house, and as he passes Dales, he hands him this Communist Party membership card with, of course, Skur's name on it. This is where Skur says you planted that, and that's basically all we hear about it. But from watching the episode, you can kind of get the idea that he definitely did plant it.
Oh, yeah. He's slimeball.
They escort him out. Dales apologizes to the wife, and she tells him to get out.
Oh, she's not down with this whole abduction, yeah.
No. But I can't imagine she would be. So we move forward in time. It is just that night, and Dales is headed to the bar after work. He exchanges some words with the bartender, who seems very thankful for the work he's doing. So they're very friendly with each other. A phone call comes in, and of course it's for Dales. It's Agent Michael. Did you hear about Skur? He hung himself. Dales looks a bit bothered at the news and orders some more bourbon.
Nothing that another drink of bourbon won't cure.
Yeah. So Agent Dales is back outside the Skur residence. He is in his car trying to muster up the courage to go in and tell Skur's wife that he has killed himself. He's having a bad time. He's a little drunk. He says he has a few drinks.
I like how he's drinking from the bottle in the car.
Yeah.
It's a very 50s thing, right?
Very 50s thing.
I'm okay to drive.
And then he sees something he says he couldn't have seen. He shouldn't have seen, as the older Dales recounts the story. It is Edward Skur walking back to his house. And before he can get there, Dales calls out his name and gives chase. They run towards the back of the house and get into a scuffle. Skur gains the upper hand and begins doing something. He's pinning him down and he's opening his mouth, but they are interrupted by a neighbor and Skur runs off.
Do we see the monster coming out of his mouth at this point? I think that there is a little bit of a...
I think it pokes out, just barely. His eyes roll back.
Yeah, it's enough to be gross, is that right?
Yeah, the two legs come out. So during that scene, we get two very insectoid legs coming out of Skur's mouth as he's pinning Dales down on the ground. Then the neighbor interrupts him and he runs off.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I mean, come on. If you're in the middle of it, well, I guess you don't want to piss off Dan. He takes out your garbage for you, so... You don't want to mess with that neighbor relationship.
So the next day at the FBI, Agent Michael walks in and talks to Dales. He's carrying a report. Dales requested people go door to door searching for Skur, but there's been no sign of him yet. Michael says they're not going to find him. He hands him the file, and there's photos of Skur dead. Do you want to change the description of the suspect? He asks Dales.
It's a nice touch, isn't it?
So, yeah, I mean, that slime factor is increasing with each scene here.
There's the truth, and then there's your career. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about how that photograph was created. Like, is this a complicity on the part of Skur? And they said, like, you've got to make it look like you've been killed so we can take these pictures and then we'll let you go. That feels sloppy.
I think that's a good question. On some level, yes, because by the end of the episode, they hint at the idea, why are they being chased?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it such a big deal that he's escaped when part of the story is that they got to take these people and hide them?
I feel like he escaped from the plot somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say plot, I mean Roy Cohn's plot, overall plot, not the plot of the episode, although it does maybe feel like he escaped from that too. So yeah, that element, it's a fun turn, but it doesn't really make sense how that would have been done unless they did try and strangle him and he fell unconscious and they took the pictures and then he got up and ran away. I mean, it's a bit sloppy.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It is at this point that Michaels tries to console Dales. He says, look, you had a few, you weren't feeling good about what happened, and you saw something that you really didn't see, and your mind's playing tricks on you. Leave his name out of your report and it'll go away. Dale's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but I already filed it. Oh, shit.
Well, it's a nice career you had once there.
Yeah, Dale gets a call. He's been summoned by the Justice Department, and the end of scene. Yes, sir. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the production design of that FBI office is amazing.
It's good.
Like the old phones, the water cooler, which I actually Googled when they made water coolers, because a part of me went, water cooler in the 50s? Really? Isn't that like an 80s thing? Apparently they've been out there since like the 30s, but they would have had glass bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's all just very, I'm sure that's probably a glass bottle water cooler. It's well done. Like, it is very believable. I mean, all the touches that they have in the various scenes, they've set up the bar, the houses, the costumes, the cars.
Even the way it's shot, they've got that a little bit of overexposure, that light kind of fogginess that they'd use in film a lot.
Yeah, a lot of shadow, a lot of hard shadow. And it is, I hadn't thought of that, but it is very much on point to a 50s or sort of film noir style, you know, gumshoe detective story. It's very much on point. So good that you don't really notice it until afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Dales goes to Roy Cohn's office. It is just him, Cohn, and another man. Does he have a name?
I don't think he does, but the placement of him, it's pretty specific. It feels like how cigarette smoking man would loom in an FBI office. I thought that was interesting.
I liked it. Instead of staying at his desk, Cohn walks around and sits next to Dales. And it is at this point that he basically tells Dales how important he is, meaning Cohn himself.
Yes.
So it's a little...
Sitting at the same side, though, that's a power move, right? That's a...
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm not treating you as a subservient. You know, you're on the same level as me, even though he very much is not. You know,
it's a strange move considering his dialogue is very, I'm in charge here and you will do what I want you to do.
Well,
that's basically the gist of it.
So he's been like, when actors do something on television, it is never accidental. It is never improvised because the camera has to know where you're going and keep you in focus, right? So that's very much a directed thing, which I think is telling. Again, this is Bill Graham who did Space. So I think he doesn't always get it right when he interprets a script, and this is a good point, because I agree with you. I think with the tone of the lines, he's sitting behind a desk. You know, he's sitting behind that big imposing desk, browbeating Agent Dales. So I agree with you that the move around is a weird one.
Well, it's almost like an immediate pullback. Like, I want you to go around and pretend like you're his friend. Oh wait, no,
actually you're not. Yeah,
everything you say is going to be the exact opposite.
Yeah, so it's a strange choice.
But yeah, he's telling him that I'm an important man, and about this report you filed about Skur, including Skur's wife, you are the only person who can identify him as your attacker. So there are certain secrets, Mr. Dales, that must be kept to serve the greater good. Dales is very hip to something's going on, and they don't want people to know that Skur is alive. He's bothered by this because he's being asked to lie on an official report, and that does not sit well with him.
I really like, though, that Ray Cohn gets him to alter the report without asking him to alter the report. Dales is the one saying, "You want me to?"
He asked him.
"You want me to amend the report? You want me to make sure that Edward Skur is not mentioned. And he doesn't even confirm it. He just says there's secrets that need to be kept. So it's a neat touch. It almost made me think the room's being recorded somehow, maybe, that, you don't want to admit to this thing you're asking this FBI agent to do.
It's sinister, to say the least.
I liked it.
We cut back to the typewriter. Skur is amending his report and replacing the name with unknown.
And not liking it. You can see that in his face.
Not
right?
liking it at all. He's very bothered by this. It's a short scene because Michael comes in and hands him a blacked out report, and they leave.
Well, no, I think it's his woman Friday. Yeah.
Oh, the secretary.
She comes in,
sorry.
and it is totally a short scene because he doesn't even get to look at it for more than a couple seconds and sees those other names, Gissing and Oberman, as well as Skur, before Agent Michael comes in and screws him off.
Yeah. So they drive to a house. Someone called from Chevy Chase PD. They enter and they hear a German record playing. Dales recognizes it as the same song playing when his unit rolled into Berlin. And Michael just calls him, okay, so he's a Kraut.
Delightfully racist.
Very quick to be a horrible person.
Yeah.
There are pictures of this man with the president. The house smells of formaldehyde, they kind of suspect. They walk down the hall and they see a body on the floor. Deflated is the best way I can say it.
It's a human suit.
It reminds me of Hot Shots, if you've ever seen that, towards the end. When they do the blood transfusion. That's fantastic.
That's a good one, yeah.
It's the homeowner dead on the floor. They get surprised by two cops who have their guns drawn on them, but they are able to introduce themselves and kind of calm the situation down before it escalates. So 2 sets of police officers who are not aware of each other have been called to this house. It's interesting because I think that sets up some sort of...
I like that this is a case of the villains not being experts. Because I think that's what's happened here. I think that there's a lot of information being sent out, like some call went out and multiple agencies are responding, but clearly the most important people that would respond to this are Ray Cohn and his guys, because they're in charge of this secret outfit. They would have sent their black bag dudes in to collect the body, and nobody would have ever been the wiser. There would never be any paperwork on this, but yet someone screwed up somehow. And not only did the FBI get called in, but the cops got called.
Yeah, the cops say that one of his nurses called it in or something.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
While Michael is calming the cops down and they're talking to each other, Dales finds a cardboard coaster for the Hoot Owl, and on the back it says, "Come alone." Very dicey and cagey and secretive, but how can they say he was supposed to pick that up?
It is really not a good link. It is not my favorite part of this scene. Because you're right. Anything could happen there.
Unless someone was right there watching and put it there under his hand, I don't know that they could guarantee that Dales would be the one to pick that up.
They have done this before in this show. That particular move where it's like you see something and you turn it over and it is the next piece of the puzzle.
A message. Yeah.
I'm thinking of Kutsunagari, where it's the woman acting as the nurse. It's the sister who's killed off Pusher and puts down the note, and I forget what it is now, but it's something she knows that Mulder will see.
It's a location or something.
Yeah, and I
know what you're talking about.
It ends up being the address, but it's the note that she knows he'll see because she knows him. That makes sense in a way that this one does not. Because you're right, anybody could see that.
So basically, through this very...
Tenuous?
Yeah, I was going to say tenuous, but I feel like I use that word a lot. But loose plot point. Dales is summoned to the bar. And in classic Deep Throat fashion, the person he's going to see is in the darkest corner of this place. And this is where Papa Mulder comes in. Bill Mulder.
Scar?
No. But I came here to warn you about it.
Like you warned that doctor you murdered in Chevy Chase?
I tried to save that man, but I was too late.
Scar killed him?
He'll kill you too.
What are you talking about? What is this, some kind of communist plot?
Skur's not a communist. He's a patriot. All of these men are patriots. What are you talking about? What men? There were 3 men, veterans, working at the State Department. Skur, Gissing, and Oberman.
Gissing and Oberman. I read those names on a censored report.
And they're dead now.
Murdered?
No. Dead by their own hand. They couldn't live with what they'd become. What they'd been turned into. And Skur's the last.
Why did they put out that story about him hanging himself?
Because they had to do something to cover up what they'd done to him. Label him a communist. Say he killed himself and put him up someplace where no one's even gonna look for him. But his escape threatens everything.
Threatens what? What did they do to him? Look, you asked me here.
And I risked my career and my family by coming here. But the crimes these men have committed against innocent people, I can't have that on my conscience anymore. Someone needs to know the truth.
Who are you?
My name is Mulder. I work at the State Department.
All right then, Mr. Mulder. Who is this there you want me to arrest?
You can't arrest these men.
Why not?
It's political.
What are you telling me? Are you telling me that Mr. Cohen and Senator McCarthy are involved in this? Is Skur after them too?
Skur wants vengeance for what they did to him. He's a killer now. He can only guess at the dimensions of this conspiracy. But he thinks you're part of it. You and your partner.
This scene itself is intercut with Agent Michael arriving at his house.
At home.
So that's
after
important.
A long day.
He's got his groceries. There was something I noticed, but I don't know if we were supposed to go, at this point, but his window's open.
I think we were meant to, but it's
Probably.
explained away with a cat somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not concerned.
He's not fazed by it
It's
at
the
all.
50s. I'll bet he didn't even lock his door.
Probably not, no. He grabs a beer and he's getting ready to wind down after a day of being a
He's going
bigot.
to reward himself with a Murphy's Red.
New information here.
Yeah.
So they aren't terrible people, they're patriots. Okay.
Well, and also new information that Mulder, young Papa Mulder, is sympathetic. You know, he doesn't just call them, monsters. He calls them patriots.
Yeah. It's a good thing you said sympathetic because I got a lot of deep throat in this exchange here where Mulder's talking about he's risking his career by talking to Dales. He can't take these secrets anymore. You know, he's kind of grappling with what he's been tasked with in knowledge.
Yeah.
He can't come to terms with what he's being asked to do and keep secret. So he's coming to Dales to help him help these people, or Skur at this point. I think that's interesting because there's a definite parallel to Deep Throat in the way he explains to Mulder in EBE at the end, where he's like, I've been one of these people who has had to kill an extraterrestrial and I come to you to atone for my sins. I just got kind of a parallel there.
If you believe it.
Yeah.
Except
I
that
guess.
later on, when they see each other again, you get the real sense that this was kind of a setup.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that some of this is true, that because obviously, our reveal at the end is that he lets Skur go.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that he thinks that, he personally can't solve this, but he can engineer a situation that may allow it to be solved.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this idea of passive resistance, which I'd like to talk a bit more later. But
Sure.
In this case, I'm not sure I buy it completely. Like I buy it in the moment because he sells.
Yeah,
it
in the
pretty well.
moment, yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. And it is a very deep, as you say, a very Deep Throat style character, except that I think with Deep Throat, he is much more, like we see so much more of him that we come to learn that he has got so many more, pans in the fire, as it were. Like he's got so much going that he just is willing to use Mulder to advance his own ends. It's not
Yeah.
altruistic, not really.
So we cut back to Agent Michael House. He turns on his TV, and we get a glimpse of Skur in the TV screen.
Yeah, it's a
But-
nice touch.
Agent Michael does not see him. I'm assuming he's turning away to go sit down or something.
Mm-hmm.
But as the screen fades on, he's adjusting his tie. He's getting ready for a nice night, and we see Senator Joseph McCarthy on the screen.
Mm-hmm. That's not going to bode well for
No.
good old Agent Michael.
Kitty knocks over a beer. Agent Michael sprays it all over himself, and he gets mad at the cat because he was the dumbass who opened it.
Yep.
Dales puts it together that Cohn and McCarthy are behind this too, and Skur wants revenge. He thinks Dales and Michael are part of the conspiracy now. Dales rushes to the bar phone, and he tries to call Agent Michael, but he can't get through. The camera cuts to Michael's phone, and we see that the line is cut. And sure enough, he's in a struggle of life and death with Skur. Skur gains the upper hand, and just as he was doing or trying to do to Agent Dales, a creature comes out of his open mouth and, in a very disgusting scene, goes into Agent Michael's mouth.
Were you watching it behind interlaced fingers? Like, were you like, I need to see it, but I can't?
It's shot very well.
It is.
The fake person, the fake Skur that they use, looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely a disturbing scene. I can't imagine being in that situation, but it's delightfully disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
For an episode that maybe was meant to fly under the radar because it doesn't have our main characters or whatever, I think it's good production all around.
Well, it certainly raises the stakes because now we know how this is happening.
Yeah.
My question would be, how is Edward Skur satisfying this hunger in the family home? Because when we first see Skur, it looks like he's leading a pretty normal life. So does he have this double life?
I would imagine he's one of these people who he probably goes out to the slums somewhere and picks a random homeless person, unfortunately, and feeds himself that way. I don't know.
Well, okay, if this is a government experiment, I could also imagine that he has to report every Tuesday for feeding, and he's supervised. and maybe, he said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's when they decided that this is going to end and we're going to use the communist thing as a way to get you in a cell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of convoluted, but I dig it. I'll have more to say about the whole
so
thing
far.
generally, but
yeah. So after commercial, we cut back. We open in on the crime scene. It is Agent Michael's home. Dales is there, along with crime scene investigators. They're conjecturing possible force feeding of a corrosive material to account for the deflation. Dales wants answers, to say the least, and in walks Cohn. Good man.
I love how their autopsy coroner dude, whatever, he says, yeah, you can get your answers in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch.
Things aren't quite as fast.
No, there's no internet.
But as soon as Cohn walks in, Dales looks bothered. He orders the body go to Bethesda. And Dales says no, an autopsy needs to be performed. And it is at this point that Cohn clears the room to talk to Dales. Give us a minute.
I got to flex a bit.
Yeah, he walks up to Dales and says, you want to test me. You want to see your name on a list. Are you now or have you ever been? And Dales pushes back, I'm no communist. You are if I say you are.
Yeah, this is actually a really great scene. I dig this cover play because there's no way Dales is going to win, right? He just doesn't have the choice.
This guy has to do is snap his fingers and this guy's arrested.
Yep.
So there's nothing Dales can do at this point. And you feel it as the viewer. Mm-hmm. You kind of feel for the helplessness of Dales in this scene.
Down but not out.
But once he stamps out Dale's will, he calls everyone back in to take the body away. And as they leave, he says, see, you're a patriot again, and walks out.
Let me put some salt in that wound.
What a bastard. Back in the office, Dales returns. He can't leave out, especially now that Michael has been killed. Mm-hmm. His report is going to be messy because he is a very truthful person. he finds himself in a series of situations where the government, the people he's working for, is asking him to actively lie on his report, and he's just not having it.
You know, it'd be interesting if you were there in the moment typing up your report going, you know what, I could just type gibberish because all this stuff's going to be redacted anyway.
Right.
I mean, I could just type whatever. I could do, Tale of Two Cities, the first page, and, put the 3 names in, and all of this is going to be blacked out. And I'm in the bar in 10 minutes.
So Dales talks to his secretary. He wants to see Gissing and Oberman's files. She has already checked, and they're missing. But she does recognize Gissing's name from an X-file. And they do have a nice little exchange about the filing system.
Yeah, she said that they're unsolved. So he's like, well, why don't you call, why are they X? Why aren't they under U? And she said she started to file them under U until she ran out of room. And then she filed them under X because there's lots of room under X.
It's a good thing.
That's a funny
nice little interesting way to see the origins of the X-Files.
It's not like somebody came up with a great name for the show and thought, U files would never sell, but X.
The U files.
Yeah.
She goes and pulls the file out. As Dale reads it, she informs him that a body was found dead, unable to explain how, but his body just collapsed. Dale's actually fills in that gap for her. She says, yeah. She points out that Gissing, after killing his doctor, killed himself.
Yeah, interesting that again, our shadowy villains are able to sort of co-opt all this information, but they miss this bit?
Yeah.
I mean, it's convenient for our hero, so yay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very, I guess tenuous is the word again.
Well, I'll give it a bit of rope and suggest that it's convenient that they are sloppy as villains go, or they're not well practiced or well thought out. They are able to make mistakes, and those are the cracks which let the light get in for our hero. Yeah,
it is in keeping with the rest of the episode where they obviously do not have their ducks in a row as to how to handle shady shit.
Yeah.
So, much. They have an escaped person on the loose for one thing,
Yeah.
Dales goes down to the morgue and he sees Gissing. They perform an autopsy, he and the medical examiner, and they notice a scar on his chest. Dales believes whatever was done to Gissing was done to the man who killed his partner. As they perform the autopsy, they find sutures in his esophagus. Whatever was done here is man-made. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they find this stuff, a creature begins to crawl out of the chest cavity of Gissing.
Yeah. They love this stuff.
Yeah. But they cut away from that, right?
Oh,
kind of quick.
There's so much more to this scene. I mean, it's classic X-Files, right? Where it's like, no, this is the important bit that you are glossing over, sirs. Why are you stopping here? Because, where does that creature go from here?
Yeah. They didn't.
Did they just sew it right back up again and say, we'll never speak of this again?
No, just put it away.
Yeah. You didn't see anything.
So from this disturbing scene with no resolution, we go to the Skur residence. Dales is seeking the help of Mrs. Skur, who I will point out is Eileen Peddle.
Oh, and where did we see her previously?
We saw her, Andrew, in Terma, season 4.
What did she play in that one?
She played, what's her name? Angie?
I can't remember, so I'm going to believe you.
Okay, Dales goes to the Skur residence. He's trying to enlist the help of Mrs. Skur to find out what's going on with Edward and to help him because he doesn't believe he's a communist. He is now on the side of Skur, but he cannot help him unless he talks to him. So he's kind of gaining favor with her because initially their only interaction was when they arrested her husband, and she doesn't like him.
I don't think she's gaining any. I don't think he's getting any favor with her though. She is.
I think she is by the end of the conversation. He's laying it out. He's like, "Look, I'm not the bad guy here. I was doing what I was supposed to do, but now I'm learning things, and I'm trying to help your husband at this point."
Well, he out and out tells her exactly what the State Department did to Edward Skur, which is a pretty ballsy move. But I suppose that does answer some questions for her because she knows all is not right with Edward Skur.
Yeah, she's keeping him in a bomb shelter. I think everything's
Well, that's where he's hiding out, in his man cave.
the original.
The original Bat Cave.
After Dales lays everything out for her about xenotransplantation and what has happened to her husband, he leaves. And before he can get in his car, Roy Cohn drives up in his car of spooks.
It's like he's been watching.
Yep. They tell him to get in the car, and he is utterly surrounded in the back seat.
I like how that plays out. He's like, just get in the car.
Just
don't
get
put
in
up
the
a fuss.
car. Yeah. It's at this point Mrs. Skur heads out to her backyard and into the bomb shelter that they have. She opens the door, goes down, and who's there but Edward Skur hiding out? He's not looking too good, is he?
I think he's ready for a meal.
He is ready for a meal. She mentions how Dales wants to help, and Skur basically says it's too late. He can't help himself anymore. We cut away to her screaming, and she is being killed by her husband.
They really, it's kind of mean for those kids. They are going to grow up without mommy and daddy now.
Yeah. That's no good, man.
Yep.
It's
Classic
a shame.
X-Files. We'll see those kids in episode, 16 of season 9. They'll be brought back.
Deadbeats.
Yeah. Maybe they turn into recurring characters, the stoners. No, that'd be a little bit far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They'd be about 50, 40.
Old stoners. Yeah.
Yeah. So we cut back, and Dales is brought into a very X-Files interrogation room with a long table.
I was just thinking this could have been out of the end of season 4, creepy conference room. This is like creepy conference room 1952 style, like lots of shadows for people to hide in.
Yeah. This is classic X-Files. We're not going to actually light this room. This is how higher up government operates. This is the kind of room that this happens in.
There's a wet bar back there.
Oh, yeah. The director orders Cohn and his lackey out of the room, and it is now just Dales and the director.
Yeah,
Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Same actor who plays Hoover.
Memoirs of a Cigarette Smoking Man?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, very good. 2 out of 7.
Stop it. All right.
Please go on.
Hoover lays out a story about how the world has changed.
In 1945, at the time of the first conference to map out the peace after the Second World War, there lived within the Soviet orbit 180 million people. Lined up on the anti-totalitarian side at that time were 1,625,000,000 people. Today, Mr. Dales, just 7 years later, there are 800 million people under the absolute domination of Soviet Russia, an increase of over 400%. On our side, the figure has shrunk to around 500 million. In other words, in less than 7 years, the odds have changed from 9-1 in our favor to 8-5 against us. The threat of global communist domination is a reality that can be ignored only at the risk of our own annihilation.
The men we arrested weren't communists.
If we are to defeat the enemy, we must use their tools. We must go further. We must do those things which even our enemies would be ashamed to do. It is only through strength that we can make our enemies fear us and thereby ensure our own survival. You have one chance, Mr. Dales, to save yourself. To demonstrate that you have the strength to serve your country.
So it's a real huge exposition drop.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's like when you're researching this episode, they probably generated a big file folder of the communist threat according to America's State Department, and they realize there's got to be a vehicle in which they can provide the audience with this helpful information. And that vehicle is going to be a monologue by J. Edgar Hoover in our third act.
I mean, who else, really?
It's like, can you imagine, like, Hoover calling up Cohn and saying, I need to speak to this meddlesome FBI
This
agent.
Nobody.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Who's
maybe
causing it.
Cohn's like, listen, your man down there, Dales, is causing some trouble. And Hoover's like, well, bring him into my office. I'll tell him the what's what.
I'll straighten him out.
And it's like, there's a page of monologue before he's like, do what you're supposed to do, basically. It takes so long before he actually gets to the point.
Let me just clarify for the audience why we're doing what we're doing.
Which, to be fair, there is probably a large segment of the viewing population who is unfamiliar with the time, and it is necessary to set the stage, but a little late in the game to be setting the stage.
Mm-hmm. So we cut to a car. It is still nighttime. Dale's putting a wire on.
I can imagine a 1952 wire. This is like a backpack.
It's exactly. It's just like this huge, cumbersome thing.
And a full-size microphone on his lapel, disguised as a flower.
This is not suspicious at all.
Can you just lean a little closer to my flower? I want you to admire my flower while you confess.
He keeps adjusting his neck, so he's talking into it. Mulder's in the car, and Dales takes this opportunity to question him, like, is this why you sought me out so I can be your stalking horse? And Mulder says, I just do what I'm told to do.
Oh, and that's where he's duplicitous, isn't it? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we saw a nice Mulder before, and now we see son of a bitch Mulder in the car.
Well, you can see there is a slight moment when Dales asks, is this why you came to see me? The other guy looks up at Mulder like, are you on our side? And then Mulder just says, I do what I'm told.
Yeah.
Assuages his fear that he's got a traitor in the car or something.
Yep.
I think that was on purpose. They wanted to make it look without words that this guy was suspicious of Mulder for a moment.
I think they're giving us the idea that Mulder's his own man. So
yeah. But it is at this point that Dales goes into the bar. He exchanges some money with the owner in exchange for the bar for the night. So the owner leaves. Dales pulls up a chair and out walks Skur.
Not before he self-serves. I think it's important to note he's going to get blasted.
He's going to get wasted before this whole thing.
I think a little liquid courage is going to go a long way.
Skur tells him, my wife's dead. I'm dead on the inside. And they want you dead too. That's why you're here. So it's not what you think it is right now. I'm here to kill you. And as soon as the scuffle starts, we see Mulder rush to go help, but the guy holds him back. Agent Dales manages to get the cuffs onto Skur and onto the railing of the bar. As the agents listen in from the car, they hear the scuffle, they hear everything, and it goes silent. They rush in, and they see Skur handcuffed to the bar, and Agent Dales is standing in the corner, essentially. He has survived this murder attempt.
I gotta say, I question the value of this scene. Or I guess I question the motivations behind this scene. Like, is this some kind of test to see how the creature works? And they're decided it's okay to sacrifice Dales in this. Because if so, there's probably a whole bunch of other people they could use as the sacrifice. I don't understand why it has to be Dales. Or if they...
I think just to get rid of him.
Well, there's a bunch of other convenient ways to get rid of Dales, too. Like, if this goes the way it's supposed to go, he's going to end up a meat suit. So,
yeah,
another X-File. But, like, it makes for, a cool fight scene, and there's high stakes there for our hero. But I think it makes zero sense in terms of how it's executed, other than to make it all look very duplicitous and cagey. I will say, though, and I wanted to eventually allude to this, I listened to a podcast recently which went into detail with the MK Ultra experiments conducted by the CIA in the 60s and 70s. And it turns out this is exactly how they ran their ops. Completely arbitrary, zero scientific method, just to find out, is this shit something that can be useful? And it's like barely even taking notes to use it. They just were, let's try this. Let's put this drug in somebody's drink and see what it does.
Yeah.
So I could totally see this as being the method, but I just don't understand the madness.
I gotcha. I think, it's very loose and very unprofessional. This is not the way you want to take care of your business if you're trying to keep things quiet.
Yeah. Like if you want him out of the way, you shoot him and you bury him in an unmarked grave, and then he just is a missing person, not turn him into a meat suit.
But as we've decided, this is
sloppy dude,
this is the way X-Files goes.
Yeah.
You could just shoot these people and it's over. But nope. So that is the end of that. We cut back to 1990. Our agent Mulder, talking to Dales. He looks a little disheartened.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't look like he's learned anything, eh?
Yeah. He's most bothered that he believes his father threw in with these people. And Dale says, well, it's not all like that. It's not that easy. I got canned for insubordination, and if you keep digging into the X-Files, they're going to bury you too. Mulder asks him one more time, Skur died saying my father's name. Why? Dale just says, I haven't the slightest idea.
Which is such a cop-out, right? It's like we've watched this thing for 40 minutes. This is the question we wanted answered, and you're not going to even give us that? I mean, eventually they do, right? But it's not from our... In that moment, I was like, him. I was literally throwing up my hands going, well, okay, that was a waste of my time.
That was a long episode for the same answer.
Yeah. Thanks so much for this. Yeah. But it's not the end.
Yeah. Mulder asks, how did Skur get away and hide for 38 years? And Dale says he's not sure. He heard he died or that he was kept in a lab. He never got a straight answer. And then he thought maybe someone with a conscience might have actually let him go. And while he's saying this, we get another flashback to Papa Mulder driving Skur to a secluded location. It's just them in the car. He stops in the middle of the road and tosses Skur the keys. Then he walks away down the road.
I was about to say, he's probably going to walk 38 miles back to, Kansas.
Yeah, he's got no cell phone.
That's right.
So he's got to get somewhere.
You know what we don't see is that to get out here, he actually drove 2 cars. He did that thing where he drove one car 50 feet, and then he's got to walk back 50 feet and drove the other car 100 feet, and then he walked back 50 feet. Yeah, it is a long ride to get to this part.
Mm-hmm. The camera pulls away up into the air as Papa Mulder walks away, and Skur drives off, hoping one day his crime against Skur will be exposed.
That he will travel to a better place.
Scooby-Doo-Bobbity-Boo.
Yeah.
So that is the episode.
Generally, I liked it. Great production design. Good performances. I think there was a few, I'll call them plot holes. I don't know. You can argue whether they were holes or just loose threads, but there are some bits there that didn't make sense. A few convenient links to keep the plot going. If you pull too hard on it, I think it falls apart. But that was only on my second time watching it. The first time, it was totally enjoyable, and you get some resolution there. You get a sense these characters. It felt good. A good effort, not great, but good. Certainly good enough to pass the time between episodes when we don't have a Gillian Anderson to work with, so we're going to work with what we got. Interesting, right? It gives us some backstory to these characters. I think it leans very heavy on the idea of passive resistance. This idea that by doing small things or, just not stopping things from happening or, telling somebody else something that maybe justice can be done in a tangential way by some other actor. You were not responsible, but, you didn't actively prevent that justice from being done. The show leans into that a lot with its characters, and it's going to lean into a bit here. I don't think, though, that this ever works. Certainly not in the X-Files. I don't think it has ever come through to a point where any of these characters can go, I feel like this justice was done. I've managed to do this thing. Like, that is the other lesson of the X-Files, is that this kind of altruism never really works. So
I understand that.
But by and large,
That's
for the
a good
episode,
point.
I liked it. It had a lot of good stuff in there. Certainly, where it tried, it worked. Just a few bits of sloppiness that, if it was a better episode, I wouldn't have even seen them. But I guess I saw. So
Cool. Good stuff.
yeah, I forgot to mention, I did like the idea of using Ray Cohn as the villain. He's using the Un-American activities as cover, for a way to sort of get people out of his way and get to do what he wants. I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah, it's definitely creative.
Mm-hmm.
It opens some doors, whether it's ridiculous or not. I think it's a very fun way to look at that era of American life and turn something that was highly suspicious into something even more suspicious by including aliens and government projects that are even worse than what actually happened. But I liked it. I think this episode is fun. I have often thought if they're ever going to do, and this is just tangential, I guess is the word. People have often asked what kind of spin-off show the X-Files could do. My idea is to go back to, say, the 40s and 50s and show us how the syndicate came to be by doing this kind of thing. Going back and seeing how all these pieces kind of fell together or where their origins lay. And then it kind of builds that way. So this episode, by and large, kind of fills that gap for me where I'm like, it's just fun to watch and to think of, this is just a thread of that, but it's not really anything important to the whole show.
Well, we already got the name for the show.
What?
Badger and Bear.
Badger and Bear. We do. But yeah, the shooting star of this episode is definitely Arthur Dales, and right next to him is the set design. I think they just knocked it out of the park. Overall, a good episode, not flawless, but enjoyable.
We have traveled a long road going down this script. Usually with puns, you find different words. But
I was just going to say, you're using the same word.
I'm using the same word over and over again.
That is the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Travel with us again in the future, dear listener.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at TINHXFilesPod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.